One, and we're live. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill. I am joined as ever by the indie developer, Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello, I'm a bit higher today.
A bit higher, yeah. You've got a standy desk, as we were joking about in the pre-show.
Standy uppy desk.
Yeah.
Look, watch this. For you audio listeners, I'll have to describe the scene.
Okay.
I'm now going down. Well, I'm appearing higher because my desk is going down. And now the desk is going back up again.
Yep.
Oh, that's a bit too high. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. I think like the audio listeners are gonna get the full experience anyway, because they could definitely hear like the. You sound like you're RoboCop just extending your legs up and down. Maybe that's actually what you're doing. It's not a desk at all. You actually stood up right now. You're just 2 foot tall because of your little robot legs. I don't know how I got there.
Commando, but with legs.
It's been a long week. What can I say? I've been working on a lot of UI coding, and it's frying my brain, but it's all good. So, Chris, other than your standy desk, how are you going, man?
I'm doing good. I've also got a new monitor, so I can look at my pretty indie game, which I have yet to try out. So this is my first outing with my new monitor. So I'm just in new toy mode. So I've been doing good, but similar to you, like I've UI, bugs, fixing
it's gross.
UI problems.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah.
No, it's all good. So, like, with the monitor as well, though, like, because I know you were talking about it on Twitter anyway, like, did you end up going for, like, a HDR sort of style thing, or did you just get a normal bug standard monitor?
It's not actually HDR, but it is Adobe RGB. So it's a higher color profile than the standard sRGB that most of the internet is. So there's more colors on here, but it's not strictly speaking, not HDR per se. And I went for a smaller one. It's only like 25 inches.
Smaller
which to me is actually huge.
Yeah.
But everything else before, like, you spend crazy money. So this is still a lot of money, but this is gonna be forever. You know, it's like I've got a forever desk. This is gonna do me forever. I've got a forever monitor. This is gonna do me forever probably.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
New toys.
Was it like a 1080p one, or did you just get like 4K one, or what?
Oh yeah, I think it's 2K.
Oh, okay. So like 1440p sort of thing.
1440p. Yeah, and it's only 60 hertz, but
That's all you need, man. Yeah. 120 is overrated unless you're gaming on it, sort of thing. So if you're making stuff on it, though, like if you're a creator, then yeah, the wider color gamut or whatever that you've got, like the Adobe RGB, is probably more important than it would be for HDR. So you definitely went the right route, I think. Like, because it's just what you were sort of describing on Twitter is kind of like, yeah, it's kind of overkill, like for everything that you're doing. So yeah, I mean, I don't even have. Yeah, I need to upgrade my stuff, because I'm definitely like using a TV and an old monitor. But my old monitor is great for coding and stuff, but it's all good. Anyway, boring like sort of toy stuff aside, Chris. Christ, like if that's what you want to talk about. I'm only joking. I was asking you questions about it. Yeah, we should dive straight into our topic this week. Obviously, by the thumbnail, it's not really controversial. Like this, we sort of spoke about this in the pre-show, but I've sort of got an issue with a lot of podcasts that are sort of avoiding this news because they quote unquote call it too political or whatever. And it's like, I'm not really focusing on the politics of like the invasion and stuff, like, because the facts are pretty dry about it. It's kind of like, yeah, it's an invasion of another country, and now there's consequences for that, and so we're going to be talking about those consequences, which is that the games industry is starting to react to Russia and their sort of invasion of Ukraine. So it's kind of, there's a lot of news sort of floating around that. It's been coming out in bits. Like, there hasn't been like a full-blown effort from this or anything, but it's starting to happen. And I'll sort of give a bit of context how this began to happen, and that's this tweet which came from I think it's the Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine. I think it's the Vice Prime Minister. Yeah, it is the Vice Prime Minister. That's correct. So he's like second in command to. I don't know if he's second in command to Zelensky or what, but yeah. Anyway, it's not important. He's higher up in leadership in Ukraine, and he basically added Xbox and PlayStation and said, "You are definitely aware of what's happening in Ukraine right now. Russia declare war not for Ukraine but for a civilized world." It's a bit of a typo there, but it's fine. If you support human values, you should leave the Russian market. Like, there's some spell mistakes in there, but of course, like, English isn't his first language, so, and he's, to be fair, he's got a bit of stress. Yeah, he's a bit stressed out at the moment, which is, totally understandable. So we can excuse him for a couple of typos, which is absolutely fine. And the reason for this, and a lot of people say, "Well, what the hell have video games got to do with the Russian invasion? Like, we shouldn't really be doing this. Like, it's a bit weird. Like, it's sort of out of context." And I thought that the same as well. I was like, it seems a bit like low in the priority list for like what we should be sort of concerned with right now. But then I started looking into the numbers and how much money Russia actually makes on the video games industry, and it turns out there's quite a lot. So there's, as reported on by GamesBeat back in, I don't know when this was actually. It's pretty, not that long ago, in 2019.
Within the last 7 days. It's gotta be
this is pretty recent. Anyway, there's an article from GamesBeat. It talks about the Russian game market has doubled in 5 years to $2 billion. $2 billion.
2 billion.
It's a lot. So I think the global market is at like 70 billion. So they've got a good sort of 5% of the market sort of thing is in Russia. And you think, okay, that's a lot of money. That's 2 billion. And then the question comes, okay, then why are we punishing gamers by taking away video games from them in whatever context, like if it's within the invasion or whatever? But like a lot of that money is taxed, and then the tax goes into the Russian Federation, and then that fuels the war machine. That's just sort of the blunt nature of it, and like we can talk about that a bit more specifically in a minute. But I just wanted to give a little bit of context in terms of like how big the Russian video games market is, and it's only been growing since games have become more accessible over there. So like, not accessible in terms of like disability accessibility. I mean like accessible as in people can get to it a lot easier. Yeah. Like games are being converted into Russian now. They're being localized properly. There's obviously Steam is huge in Russia, like absolutely massive. And the console markets are also growing as well because just games are a lot easier to get hold of because of things like Game Pass and these sort of services, which is great for the world. But yeah, in today's context, things have changed a little bit. That brings me on to this, which is the NDPs for like global markets, and it's just what games sell the most in the world. And in Russia last year, the top selling games were Grand Theft Auto 5, Cyberpunk, and Sony's Spider-Man Miles Morales.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah, there's normally like I think they actually mentioned in this article that in 17 countries players preferred FIFA 22. But in Russia, GTA 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 Miles Morales are the best-selling titles. In Finland, games chose NFL 22, that's interesting in of itself. I guess it's cold up there. But yeah, there's that. So there's a huge gamer market. That's the sort of thing that I'm trying to push right now. That's the like, and this is why the vice prime minister has come out and said, hey, companies, you shouldn't be supporting these people because they're making a lot of money through you, and you're basically funding the war machine in the Russian Federation right now.
So it's not sentimental. It's not just like a gesture. It's actually going to affect, the amount of money that Russia can get from these these products by these companies, withholding them from the Russian people being able to buy them. That sucks for the Russian people that don't want war. That's the only downside. But, the potential upside bit being, stopping how much money Putin's got to wage war in Europe. Yeah. Which, when you say it out loud, just sounds absolutely...
Yeah, it still sounds like we're living in some alternative reality, but it is our reality, unfortunately. But yeah, like to sort of go off the back of that, though, is just the fact that Cyberpunk and GTA 5 were the top-selling games of last year in Russia, to sort of tell you like how this directly affects that. We've got first news story is from GamesIndustry.biz. CD Projekt Red halts all sales in Russia and Belarus. So that game it's not available in Russia as of time of filming this, which is that's one of the biggest games of last year for Russia is out. The second biggest game, which was the This is Grand Theft Auto 5 that's still flourishing there. Also, the Rockstar Game Store has removed the storefront on PC, at least anyway. I'm not sure like what it's doing on consoles and if it stopped sales writ large across all platforms.
Yeah.
But PC is the biggest platform in Russia, so you can no longer buy anything from Rockstar Games on the Russian store as of time of writing. But this is pretty new anyway. Like, I don't think this has been confirmed by any other outlet, so take this with a pinch of salt. But it just seems like they've just removed the store sort of thing, so you can't actually buy any things.
There's loads of people pulling. So was it Gran Turismo 7 sales is being paused in Russia, and you've got Electronic Arts sort of pulling its games. They've taken off Russian football team from FIFA 2022 as well. So there's that on top. So there's lots of people that are pulling out, and it seems like it's good to see that it's just more than one article where, and you know, it's lots of developers that are doing this. So it seems like I don't think this is finished either. This is going to ripple out. The fact that Microsoft have come out and said, yeah, we're just halting all sales, that was pretty big considering. I think the major blow that Russia could really get, and Gabe Newell has already spoken to his opinion on the whole Russia and Ukraine situation that's going on, and he's not best happy with Russia, that's for sure. And if Gabe Newell just decides to pull Steam from Russia, that's going to be like the biggest blow, I think. But there's a lot of things around that which is sort of difficult, because we're not just dealing with the publisher as a whole. Like if you're EA or something, you can sort of mitigate, and we have to mention like EA have also like halted all sales in Russia as well. But like if EA just turn around and say, okay, we're going to stop selling games on Steam writ large or whatever publisher decides to do that, they can sort of look at how that's going to affect them and the industry writ large, because they're a very contained unit. But for Steam, it's a lot more nebulous in that if you're an indie developer, for example, like how do your sales on your indie game get affected by Steam pulling out of Russia? And it's stuff like that, which Steam, I think, have got to crunch a lot of numbers, but ultimately they're probably going to go the same route as everyone else, just to avoid like the Twitter backlash of, you know, boycott X company or Y product. And it's just, I really don't think this is anywhere near done. It's going to continue. Yeah, slowly ramping it up is probably a good way to go. So it's not because hopefully that is more of a message to Russia as well, to say like this is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. The more they crunch the numbers, the more they see how it's going to affect. Yeah. You know, that's like a strategy. You know, all the countries have been doing that with their economic sanctions. They didn't all just go everything now. You know, the way to do it is slowly and progressively over time. Is the tactic, and so that's good that everyone seems to be like in unison as well.
I think that speaks to like world leadership as well, I guess, like in terms of how everyone's been sort of unified on this. Like obviously, like morally, it's just there's a lot of things that people can say like, well, yeah, obviously we're gonna like support X, Y, and Z and stuff, but like ultimately, like you really forget how much like if sanctions weren't put into place all at once in a political sense, then you know, companies on further down the list like this in the games industry wouldn't jump on board as quickly either. But because like they know they're probably going to be supported by their respective governments wherever they're like officially based, like that's important. So it's kind of
95%, I guess, of 95% of the games industry is going to be on board with this happening. So that's kind of easy maths to do, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but there is, obviously, with the whole Steam thing, there's a lot of talk around PayPal and MasterCard, because obviously they're two companies that have also pulled out of Russia writ large, and a lot of indie developers and content creators from all across all industries get paid through those services. So it's the damage is already sort of being done before Steam even like pull the trigger on this. Like in terms of games, like I want to keep this specifically to the games industry, of course, because we're first and foremost we're a gaming podcast, so that's what we're going to talk about. So like the damage is already going to be done to indie developers that are potentially trying to sell stuff to Russian gamers, and so like is it just time
and
for
Russian indie devs as well, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Their method of getting payment in it's already been taken away from them. So
yeah, that does extend the conversation as well. Like, yeah, we're talking about publishers pulling out of Russia, but we're also, like, we haven't even touched upon the fact that there's a lot of people starting to call for, within Ukraine and outside of Ukraine, for game studios or game publishers that have studios based in Russia to pull the studios out altogether, and just cut them off completely. And so, okay, we're not going to sell games there, and we're also not going to develop games there. There's a lot of talk around that, and I think we're probably going to start seeing that happen in the coming days, especially if Russia doesn't change its tone, which it certainly looks like it's not even adhering to ceasefires. So, like, I doubt it's going to really care about, like, the games industry and losing a few studios. And it's just another sort of, it's another grain of sand on the mound of weight which we're adding to Russia, just to sort of tell them, hey, this isn't cool, and the games industry definitely has a part to play in that, because outside of the money, like, we can talk about how much money, like, Russia makes and all of that, but at the end of the day, video games are like a sense of culture in a way. Like, they're very much a globalist sort of culture aspect of our daily lives, and if you start taking that stuff away, then the gamers in Russia are going to start noticing. And if they're not, I don't want to say brainwashed or something like that, but if they're getting wrong information, it might, like, this sort of thing might wake them up a little bit to certain events around the world, like, whatever that may be. So it's just, like, this is the part that the games industry is trying to play. If that's a good thing or a bad thing, like, it remains to be seen. But I wanted to get, like, your thoughts on this though, Chris. Like, how do you feel about the people that are saying, we shouldn't be punishing gamers in Russia for the acts of their government? Like, do you agree with that, or is it a bit more nebulous for you?
Unfortunately, yeah. When it comes down to life and death, which it is,
Sure,
people are dying, and so the things that we play with as a luxury aren't as important, and you just can't quantify the two. So as long as there are people dying, a country not being able to access entertainment, I don't think is a very big deal. I mean, it's going to be a big deal to the Russians, where they're not getting that much information about this invasion.
sure.
And so their government and their media are downplaying it. So I can understand their frustrations that they might have, that they can't get hold of GTA 5, for example, if that's, like, their top game.
Sure.
And so it's almost not their fault, really. But yeah, at the end of the day, what it's doing is going to try and help a country invading Europe to try and stop people dying. And so it can only be a good thing. With any sort of effort that goes towards that. That's kind of my thought. It's just two separate things, totally not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, no,
What do you think?
I think I'm on the same page as you. I don't really have, like, a clean cut answer, like a lot of people seem to have on Twitter, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm all for, like, it's binary 1 or 0 sort of thing, and I'm not really in that camp. Like, I absolutely feel sorry for the average Russian that doesn't support this war, that just, like, I just want to get on with my life, and I just want to play some video games. Like, we just come out of a pandemic, and now my stupid country is going to war. Like, I don't understand this. Anyway, it doesn't matter. As long as I can sit down and play GTA 5 on the next gen update of the GTA 5, and then suddenly this goes down, it's like, motherfucker, sort of thing. Like, yeah, I understand.
I get the sentiment.
I understand. Like, that sucks for them, but at the end of the day, like, I sort of fall into that. Regardless of how I feel about that, like, of the average Russian that is against the war and like, just wants to get on with their life, at the end of the day, like, the taxes that they pay on those video games do go up to the Kremlin, which does fund the war effort, which is killing Ukrainians. So indirectly, we have. I'm not blaming the average Russian for this war. Absolutely not. Like, I blame the man at the top for that. But for the average person, like, these are the sacrifices that we have to sort of take when it comes to our governments doing heinous things. So this is, it's sort of like, it has to happen. But, like, as horrible as it is to the average person, unfortunately, this is just, we can't fund this war in any way whatsoever, and this is definitely a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. So it's kind of powerful that, these companies in the West have the ability to sort of get involved in that, and some people don't like that. They think you should leave politics out of it, and I get that sentiment, but games aren't ever created in a vacuum, and politics plays into that. The world stage plays into that.
I agree.
Games aren't even consumed in a vacuum. So you may want to like escape the world, but that very act in itself shapes your experience with a game. So like Horizon Zero Dawn was one of my favorite games of all time because of when it came, which was during lockdown, and so I was going through some stuff and its themes totally resonated with me, and so they are totally part of each other. Like games exist in the real world in real time, so when they're released, how good their graphics are, what the stories are, they're because the devs are living in the real world creating these games, they exist in the real world, so they cannot be separated regardless of if they should be.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I mean, you're right, and I think people forget about the whole vacuum thing. Like, video games aren't made in a vacuum. As much as we would like to compartmentalize some of these things, and we can, certainly, for a lot of things, like, in terms of, like, morals and ethics and just high theory of everything. But when the rubber hits the road on this thing, like, video games in Russia that are being paid are getting taxed, and those taxes go to the Kremlin, which then inadvertently are going to the war effort. So it's sort of it's a tiny fraction of those taxes. Don't get me wrong, but like even 1 penny is too much, sort of thing, for a lot of these companies and a lot of these gamers, because at the end of the day, these companies aren't just doing this out of the goodness of their heart, sort of thing. It's because of the outcry from gamers in the West. So like people in America and the UK and all over Europe and everywhere else, like in Japan, everywhere, like people are saying to games companies like, hey, this isn't cool that you sell games or that you're developing games in Russia, because you're helping these people kill people, and that's not what we want to be about. That's not what gamers are about. So I respect both sides of that fence, and I definitely fall on the side that, yeah, at the end of the day, these taxes are going to the war effort in whatever way. So we've got to cut out as much as we can, I guess. But it certainly sucks. I am sympathetic to the average Russian who wants nothing to do with this, but this is unfortunately just how it has to be. And if the UK ever did anything heinous, like I would hope that the same thing would happen to us as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of gamers in Russia that are kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like this isn't cool, and this is just another message to the shot of the bow of the Kremlin to sort of like let them know, like, hey, the world isn't very happy about this. Which, if they haven't got that message by now, when will they ever? But it's more pressure to add. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's a sucky situation, but hopefully it can speed things up in a small way. Then the better. Hopefully.
I hope so, because like there's a lot of cultural pressure.
I don't want to talk about this on our podcast. We
yeah.
be talking about this is a game podcast.
Yeah,
we shouldn't have to talk about wars.
Right,
but it's totally relevant. It's totally affecting the games industry. It's going to be affecting what games come out. It's going to be affecting what stories get written. There's going to be devs in Russia, there's going to be devs in Ukraine. Those stories that are going to be told in the next sort of 5-10 years, just going to be part of it.
Yeah, which, it's probably good as well, because I think we sort of deify video games development in general anyway, and we sort of compartmentalize it out of society. When, like, not us, like, specifically, but, like, the gamers in general sort of do this thing. But, like, we have to realize that games development is very sort of entangled with real life and reality sometimes, and sometimes reality has its way of punching you in the face to remind you of that. And you're absolutely right, like the developers in Ukraine and Russia are absolutely going to be affected by this. And I mean, we're already seeing that, the fact that Stalker 2 has been delayed indefinitely. Ukrainian developers, and there's plenty of other games as well in the pipe which we don't even know about, like which have probably been delayed or cancelled or just completely gone already, because them developers have decided, you know what, I'm just going to pick up an assault rifle and defend my country, which sounds insane, but that's what's happening. That's the reality of this. Games developers are like defending their country right now. They've got other priorities, and we should absolutely, as gamers, respect those priorities and sort of, support them in any way that we can, especially in this way. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like, we'll sort of move on from this, but I mad respect for the companies that have had the balls to do this, basically, because it's a lot of money that they're going to lose, but it's ultimately probably the right thing to do for the time being, at least. Remains to be seen how much like it actually affects, if at all, but like, yeah,
we shall see. Yeah, watch this space, and
indeed.
hopefully next week I have some we won't talk about it, and that'll be good news. So,
yeah. I look forward to the week where we don't have to talk about a war on a gaming podcast, Chris. Like that would be nice. So Russia, if you could stop, that would be great. You know, like that'd be nice if you could just
For
like
us,
stop
at least.
for us.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the 40 million people of Ukraine. That would also be cool. I hate that guy. Anyway, moving on. Chris,
moving on. What should we talk about next?
you've got some news about Epic Games, I believe. So we should probably talk about this.
Epic Games. Yes. So Epic Games recently bought. So a little while ago, they bought Harmonix. So the studio that did like the Rock Band and all those sort of games.
Right.
And they also recently bought Bandcamp. So why are we talking about those two things specifically? Well,
I don't know, Chris. You're gonna have to tell me because I'm actually quite like off the fence on this. Like I've no idea what's happening. So this is all you, brother.
Okay, so basically, Bandcamp, because Vin didn't even know, so I've got to probably explain it to the people that aren't kind of a bit musos. So Bandcamp is this platform similar to Spotify,
Okay.
but it's a platform that bands and artists prefer to use, because they get lots more of the royalties than something like a streaming platform like Spotify. So it's a place where people can go and interact with the actual musicians, and there's a lot more back and forth, and you can buy like the artist's content, so like music primarily, through Bandcamp, and Bandcamp offer the best return for the artist, so they'd much prefer it over something like Spotify.
Okay.
So Epic have got Fortnite. Fortnite did the biggest concert of all time when that rapper, was it Travis something or other, did that.
We're getting old,
man.
man.
I know.
These newfangled artists, like we don't know.
These rappers, rapping all over the place.
Rappity rappers. Yeah.
So that's the biggest concert. So Epic have got that. Then they bought Harmonix. So they bought the people that did Rock Band, but also bought huge IPs. So lots of artists have their IPs with Harmonix. So things like the Beatles, when they did like the Beatles Rock Band, that must have been huge. Like I don't know what the numbers were for that. So this is all in Epic and Fortnite's sort of sphere. And then they buy Bandcamp. So that on its own, like the Bandcamp news in isolation is like, well, that's a bit left field. Why are they buying like a music buying platform? Like, why would they want to be able to like get artists involved in selling their content through Epic? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But when you combine it with Harmonix, who have got IPs of a lot of artists, and when you combine it with Fortnite and the biggest concerts that ever existed, it looks like they're brewing something huge. It looks like, to me, they're trying to get their own sort of metaverse where they could have sort of live concerts and they could invite artists along, and using the Bandcamp software you can like maybe buy tickets, or you can buy the albums that are done live in Fortnite, for example. Or if it's not Fortnite, it'll be, you know, maybe its own platform, like an online music concert venue,
Sure.
where people can log in, exist in the space. The artist is, you know, on stage virtually, potentially, and you could maybe buy tickets or buy the recording through Bandcamp, and it's all in one place, so all online, unlike the metaverse. That's what I think this acquisition sort of is pointing towards.
I guess there is a lot of opportunities for Epic to sort of branch out, because I'm not sure like if like, yeah, I mean, it sounds great that they would do that, especially within something like Fortnite, but would it be more beneficial to them, do you think, if they, I don't know, like branched off a section of Fortnite just for concerts sort of thing? Like, do you think that would be on the table?
So. I don't know. I don't know whether or not they want to keep it within Fortnite, because Fortnite's got the branding, so they've got the numbers. So people are going to turn up. So people that play Fortnite is huge. The people that are spending money through Fortnite is absolutely huge. Like Bandcamp was I think I was watching the Play Watch Listen podcast with Austin Winter, and I think it was something like a week or a year's worth of Fortnite's revenue was like the whole of Bandcamp's earnings. So this was small fry for Epic. This was like a drop in the ocean. They could have probably done their own thing, but this was the cheaper option, just to buy.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the acquisitions, which a lot of people miss, and that's it. It's a great point. Is that like, yeah, it is a drop in the bucket, but they're not buying the service at all. They're buying the infrastructure and the experience of the service. That's what they're buying. Then they don't care about Bandcamp. They absolutely could start from the ground up and build something probably better and, you know, with more money and all that sort of stuff, but it would take years and years and years. But like by having these acquisitions, you basically are just skipping a lot of stuff. And the same reason why PlayStation have just bought out Bungie. Like 99% of the reason why they bought Bungie wasn't because of Destiny or anything like that. They probably don't really care about Destiny because it's a free-to-play game. They're not really going to make that much cash off it anyway, apart from the microtransactions. But the experience that comes with that of making a live service game is way more beneficial to someone like Sony. And I think this is probably going to be the same as well, even if they don't merge Bandcamp directly into something like Fortnite or a Fortnite Music or something where you could just go into... Like, you could log into Fortnite Music and your avatar is there, what you always use at Fortnite or whatever, and then you can go and sit down as your avatar.
Then you can go to a concert.
Right, and actually go... Like, you could totally make a separate app for that, and that would work, and it would be great. But...
You could buy the band T-shirts virtually.
Right, yeah, and there's a lot of stuff... There's a lot of merchandise opportunities in that, I guess, as you said.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fascinating. It is really interesting, though.
But it's virtual. But they say on the press release that Bandcamp isn't going anywhere, so they're still going to have the standalone marketplace, still have the online music community. They're still going to keep the 82% average sale that goes to the artists.
Right.
They're still doing everything that they did before and all the events. So, yeah, it sounds like they just bought the technology and the expertise and the experience and the skills. So,
yeah, I mean, Epic Games are a funny, weird company, man. Like when it comes to the industry, anyway, because they're buying a lot of services for various different things, which don't really make a lot of sense a lot of the time. But like, there was a report came out that they had bought a shopping mall randomly. I don't know what the hell that was about. But they've also bought ArtStation. So Epic own ArtStation, which is bananas. And it's like, okay, that's a worry for me as an artist, and I can go into that in a minute. They also bought Sketchfab, which is, like, people that don't know, like, if you're a 3D artist, you upload basically 3D models to Sketchfab, which is sort of like a 3D model viewer, for lack of a better term, in a web browser. So you can spin it around, look at it, look at the different layers on it, see like what the wireframe looks like and all the textures and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's a really cool tool, and Epic just randomly bought it out, and like now they have like sort of their fingers and toes in all of the portfolio spaces for the games industry, which is weird. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that yet because of the ramifications of that. Like, if they start only promoting stuff that is made by Epic Games, or if they only, like, if you're an ArtStation or whatever and you're trying to get your best work shown and you don't use Unreal Engine, for example, like, how far down the algorithm are you going to be? Like, that's a real question. Same for Sketchfab, right? Like, are you not making a game that's going to be an Unreal Engine? That's too bad. You're going to be at the bottom of the algorithm, isn't it? And it's stuff like that which I'm very nervous about. And like, I'm not sure if you have any of the, because you're more of a music person, like you play instruments and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know how to do the old jams. I do not. I'm totally out of the loop on this. Like, is there any other concerns around this acquisition that you can actually see, or do you think this is all good news?
No, if anything, I just think it's gonna be more opportunity. So I hope that with the harmonic stuff, like, if you can, because also Epic did that thing where you can actually plug your actual guitar into Epic and play along.
Yeah.
So we've got that technology as well. Or was that Ubisoft? That might have been Ubisoft.
It was Ubisoft, yeah. It was
Sorry,
Rocksmith.
my mistake.
No, you're cool.
Rocksmith, that was it.
Yeah,
but
so they're direct rivals with that. So
they've got, so we know that technology exists, though. So if Epic come up with something similar, or if they just use the Rock Band, like, guitars, or like, the drums and the mic, you could have that situation where you've just got more opportunity. I can't see how it would take away from anything that already exists. Because they've even said, Bandcamp isn't going anywhere. So that's the technology for bands to be able to sell their music. I just suspect it's going to be a bigger platform than what the bands could have possibly hoped for. Like, Bandcamp is a platform for sure, but like via Epic and via potentially some sort of Fortnite-based concerts, the potential for sales could be huge, because you've got all these tweens and kids that can spend disposable income through Fortnite if they then go to their parents and go, hey, I'm going to just watch this cool band that you've never heard of, can I have some money? The parents are probably going to think, well, at least it's not going to be, they're not buying like virtual wings or like a virtual outfit anymore.
Yeah.
Like at least they're going to have some sort of experience with music.
Yeah, that is a weird angle, isn't it, that we have from like the games industry plus parents almost. Like we have to sort of convince the parents like, hey, they're not just playing games, they're they're learning something and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That like bait and switch that we've been trying to pull on parents, like I still don't know if that works, like because the same with Minecraft, right? They're not playing a game, they're playing Legos, and there's a lot of learning opportunities in Lego, and it's like, no, that's not what's happening. The kids are like, I just want to play games with my friends, like they don't care, trying to bait and switch them. But yeah, absolutely, I think the argument for that is absolutely there, though. So yeah, that's always good. Hi guys, thanks for joining us in the chat, by the way. Novago and Sanjid, appreciate you having coming to check us out.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything that could be bad. I can't see the downside. This is just all exciting, the possibilities, and even if it's a flop, even if it's a failure, that's we've not lost anything. I can't see how it's going to be a downside.
Worst case scenario is that Epic like try and do something with Fortnite and they just it completely falls through, and then they they sell off Bandcamp and it becomes what it formerly was. So like it's not the end of the world, I guess. But yeah, as long as like you as the music creator sort of thing, like if you can't see anything that's like directly a problem with this, then it's probably going to be a good thing, I guess. Like there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Epic to sort of expand out. Like I would be really curious to see if they did do a Fortnite music platform. Like that would be really interesting to see, and not just doing concerts within Fortnite, because while that brand is obviously very powerful, it would be nice if they sort of started to compartmentalize that out a little bit, because I don't think it always fits, because not everyone plays Fortnite, for example. So like it'd be good if they could create some form of platform where like people that don't play the game can actually come in and still enjoy music in whatever sense, in terms of like because the idea of like a virtual concert is great, like that, especially in these times, like in like post-pandemic or whatever. Like a lot of people are sort of used to being at home between Oculus VR and things like that. We've got all these new options, so it'll be really interesting to see what they do with this space.
Yeah, I mean, Sanjay makes a good point. Like, what's Facebook going to do with the metaverse? Is that going to be like a bit of a war of services? They'll have something up their sleeve. We still don't know what that's going to be yet, apart from a name change, and what we've seen on that video with Zuckerberg. So it's possible that we have like a war of technology, and the best technology could lose out. So if Epic do have this best version, it's not a guarantee that it's going to be successful and win. Like when you think about music technology, there's always been a race. So, arguably people prefer vinyl over tapes, and there are obvious advantages and disadvantages over both. Same thing with like mini disc and CDs. Like mini disc on paper has lots of advantages over CDs, but CDs won. Yeah. So it's very possible that because Facebook are bigger than Epic, they could win the technology, and even if Epic are better for bands and musicians getting more revenue, it could be that Facebook's one just wins by just being bigger.
Yeah, it's tough because like the metaverse is very, I keep using this word today, but it's a very nebulous day. Yeah, it's a very nebulous thing. Like we don't really know what the metaverse really is going to be. Like we don't know what the main goal of it is, apart from like quote unquote connecting people in whatever sense. But the advantage that something like Bandcamp has and what Epic has is that they've got a well-established sort of platform where a lot of these people are congregating for that specific thing. So for music content creation, like people are on Bandcamp already, but whereas Facebook are going to have to build that up, like within not only within Facebook or Meta or whatever the hell it's called these days, but within the platform itself. And like you have to, and there's a big barrier to entry as well in terms of like, you have to own a VR headset and things like this. And there's a load of questions around that. Like, okay, like the more barriers that there are, like the less likely is someone's going to do it. Because if they see like the commercial for Meta sort of bands or whatever on TV. And it's like, oh, cool, that looks awesome. Like, how do I get into that? And then someone's like, oh, okay, first you need a Facebook account, and then you need a VR account, and then you need to get a VR headset. They're about $300. You'll figure that out. And then you have to figure out how to use the VR. And it's just like all this sort of stuff. Whereas when it comes to Fortnite or something, it's like everyone is sort of aware that all you really need is a computer or a mobile phone or whatever. Like that device that you already have in your hand, you can totally just join and you're in a concert. Like that one hit button, like barrier to entry is a lot smaller for someone like Epic. So I think they're better positioned either way. But it remains to be seen.
I can imagine they go for some sort of hybrid option where there'd be like an online concert where the VR headset crew maybe get the first row and like they've got more accessibility, like they can walk around, they can do more things. Whereas the people that just sat there on the screen, you know, they can't get
stuck to their seats, right?
And if they're looking at all these people in VR having just the greatest time, you know, that's going to be a good way to sell more headsets, I think.
Yeah, like the whole Facebook thing is very much their vision isn't for the Oculus Quest version of the metaverse today. It's very much like, okay, what's it going to be in 10 years? Because 10 years time, it's going to be huge. Not Facebook's metaverse in general, but like the metaverse in general, like what we consider the metaverse is like it's writ large, like across all companies, like doing different things, whatever their versions of the metaverse is. Because this is before, because it's been heavily rumored that Apple are going to be announcing their AR/VR product this year, and they're probably going to smash through everything that Oculus has done because they know product design a lot better. Unfortunately, it's just the blunt end of it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with it, and how that sort of affects what Epic's doing and within the games industry and things like that as well. So it's a very versatile sort of industry, and it's going to change a lot over the coming years. So yeah, watch that space if you're into that sort of stuff anyway. Like there's a lot of people that just want to play traditional style games and they don't care about that stuff like whatsoever. So yeah,
that will never die. They're just trying to shepherd in and herd what's going to be fashionable, and if they can get that to be this place where you know you have more fun if you buy more gear, then that's better for those companies, isn't it? So they've got to try and make it look as fashionable as possible, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
Without doubt.
So that was that. So yeah, you didn't even really know what Bandcamp was. A good example of how it could be that the technology doesn't work is that, you know, everyone's heard of Spotify and everyone uses Spotify.
Sure.
But Spotify isn't as good for the artists as Bandcamp.
Right.
So Bandcamp, they get more money. So all the artists want everyone to use Bandcamp, but everyone uses Spotify. And why is that? Probably because of money. We're going in the right places or the wrong places, depending on who you ask. And, you know, platform accessibility, things like that.
I think platform accessibility is probably going to be the biggest thing, and I hope like that is, because I haven't even heard of this thing until Epic acquired them. So there's that, I guess. But I'm not a curator either. So I'm not a person that makes music. So if it's very much a platform catered towards that, then, and it's more about the indies and stuff like that. It's very much like the Steam versus PlayStation sort of thing, and PlayStation being Spotify, right? And this is more of the Steam. Both holding their own in different ways. It's just vastly different audiences and different content creators themselves. So yeah, interesting, fascinating stuff. Like I'm really curious to see what they actually do with it now in the future, because like as someone that's always wanted to learn an instrument, I'm constantly looking at like what Ubisoft's doing with Rocksmith, and I'm always like, oh, okay, what about all that other stuff? So fascinating. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like obviously the biggest thing in the room, like when it comes to like this, like Bandcamp and harmonics and all that sort of stuff, is that the next Rock Band game is going to be ridiculous. Like, okay, you can play every single song that's in Bandcamp now. Go.
Yeah.
And that's just like, oh crap, that's a big game that people are sort of sleeping on. And those games are heavily reliant, and I mean heavily reliant upon their libraries and what songs they've got in their catalogs. So yeah, it's very much dependent on that, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Like I'd be curious if they just go like the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate route of just like, just put everything in there. We'll see what happens. You know, but cool, exciting times, especially for music creators and like rhythm game players. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they could do with this, and I hope that they do something good with it.
Definitely, yeah. Technology is going to be making that like an awesome game. Like the next Rock Band is going to be awesome, regardless of how it actually comes about and when. Yeah,
without a doubt. Yeah, to answer your question real quick, Sanjay, like, yeah, we don't talk about crypto on this website, on this podcast. We don't do it. Like, no. To be honest, I really don't think these companies are going to be looking at crypto whatsoever when it comes to the metaverse stuff, because it's not a very popular thing right now. Even though if it makes them money, like they're just going to stay the hell away from it until it sort of cools off, or they figure a better way of doing it. But for the time being, I really don't see them touching it.
Yeah, it's bad PR at the minute, at the very least.
Indeed. So we should move on to what we've been playing this week, I guess. Have you got anything else to talk about, Chris?
Did you want to talk about the Activision Blizzard thing, or is that a bit too bleak? Or
it's not too bleak. I just don't know anything about it. Like, we'll let a bit more information come out, and we'll cover it next week.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Activision Blizzard, the lawsuit that we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. We've said before, it's an ongoing story. We're going to be talking about it several times. So yeah, we can wait until there's more bits to talk about in one go next week.
Was it Activision? Was it Activision? Was it the Washington Post that did it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just throw like as a precursor anyway. So if you are interested in tune in next week and we'll have a look at this. But Activision Blizzard sued for wrongful death by family of employee who killed herself. So yeah, sounds like
the headline.
Sounds like a pretty horrible story, and it's an article I have not read. It was only brought to my attention just before this, so like I would really like to absorb all that information before because that's that's not something that I want to just give offhanded comments about, just in case like I say something completely wrong, and I don't want to offend anyone.
Do some research on that,
right?
Sure.
Exactly. So
yeah, what have you been playing?
Same thing that you've been playing, probably. A little game called
Mighty Pups, Adventure Bay, Paw Patrols.
No, it's actually Barbie Horse Racing 4. It's a really good game. Like, Barbie's hair is a bit static. Like, they need to add a bit more animation to it. But
did you see the Elden Ring gif of it's Barbie riding a horse, and it's like Elden Ring looks amazing, and it's Barbie like riding a horse in a video game.
Yeah, like the characters that they always choose for the PR in Elden Ring are quite, Barbie-ish, like the long blonde hair flowing in the background sort of thing. Like it's kind of funny, but yeah, good times.
So you've been playing, you haven't been playing Paw Patrol.
I have not been playing any of those things. Also, I've not been playing Barbie Horse Racing 4. I promise. Like, I don't even know if that game exists. I hope it does. God, please exist. No, I've been playing Horizon Forbidden West. I'm pretty sure you've been playing this as well, right, Chris?
Yeah. Probably not as far as you. I've not put the hours in, which is a bad sign. It's not been hooking me in.
Right.
I've been putting it off because it's not.
Well, tell me about it. Like, what's your overall impression about it? Like, obviously, you got the first game tattooed on your arm. Like, you really enjoyed it. It's one of your favorite games of all time. And then the second one comes along, and it's not quite grabbing you, right?
It's not quite grabbing me. I've done the first. I've got like the tutorial stuff out of the way, which I was impressed about how big it was, and I was impressed that all these functions were coming up. So like the skill tree, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a skill tree. Just like, oh, here's a skill tree, and it's huge, massive, it's vast, and that's impressive. I've done like the first main mission, unlocked a thing. So So I've done that, but the major things I'm not liking is what we talked about last week, in that it's just not very polished. There's some things which are kind of annoying and nagging.
What?
One thing that's new, which I found, which really annoyed me, and I don't understand how it wasn't picked up in QA. So I just did opened up the Forbidden West. I'm in there. They say, hey, go to that tall neck. So I go to the tall neck.
Yeah.
And then I follow the main mission, and so I'm on my way to the main mission. And on the way to the main mission, I'm not going to give spoilers away, but I came across a scene. I couldn't see anything except for wilderness. Aloy kept saying something which didn't make any sense to me. She said it constantly, about 5 or 6 or 7 times.
Right.
I was fighting a pack of monsters, and
there's monsters in this game? I thought they were robots.
Robot monsters. And then I came across this thing. The words coming out of Olo's mouth, I didn't know. She seemed to know something I didn't know. And then later on, I played the first mission, and then what I'd seen made sense. And I hated the fact that it was on the way to the main mission that I came across something which totally blew the Ludo narrative dissonance, and I was totally disconnected from the game because Aloy knew something I didn't know. And she said it several times, which again was annoying.
Yeah.
Like, they need to put a ratchet on that thing. They need to like if you've played the same voice clip 5 times in 5 minutes, like don't play it again for another 3 minutes.
Right.
And that'll be fine. But I must have been. I was fighting these robots, and I think I was just coming back and forth over a threshold, and it just kept playing the voice clip every time I was hitting it. But I couldn't even see the thing that she was talking about until later on. So yeah, that was really annoying, and I don't know how that wasn't picked up, because that should be. They shouldn't have placed the thing there because it's on the road to the main mission.
I know exactly what you're talking about
away.
as well, and there is a lot of that in the thing, and I think it's actually because of QA that all these like issues is what people are sort of coming across, which is mostly about Aloy and how many barks she has. Like in games development terms, like barks are basically the way that the main character tells the player of stuff that's happening around them, or it gives them hints or tutorials or whatever, like through the game. So she just constantly says stuff out loud, which are either obvious or not too obvious or whatever, to sort of guide the player along. And there is,
it's an art to get right, and most of the
without
time
a doubt,
it's best when it goes unnoticed.
Oh,
It's just jarring when it's noticed, and it's a total art to know when to do it and how to do it, and
and
when
then
you've got players that
instance,
are doing weird things in weird combinations. That's when things can go wrong, and that's fine because the player's not really playing it as the game was. It's not what we call a critical path.
Sure.
So it's not an obvious path that most people are going to do. I was doing a critical path. I was doing a path that a lot of people would have done, which you did yourself as well. And so I was annoyed about that because I wasn't like cheating. I wasn't doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing.
Right. So like I guess your problem that I'm sort of gauging from this is that she is still talking too much.
She's talking too much, even though it pains me to say, because I love her and I love her voice and
sure,
love her character.
Yeah.
But she's she's got a bit of an attitude, and there's no reason. I don't know what the reason for her attitude is.
Yeah, because I'm playing through this as well. And my wife looked at me yesterday and she was like, "Yeah, Aloy's a bit of an ass," and I was like, "Yeah, kinda." In this one, like she's a bit more arrogant, absolutely. She has got a bit of an attitude, and it only gets worse as well, like throughout the game. So it's kind of, I mean, she's still a great character. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like we're definitely picking at the heels of this, but the biggest issue by far in this game is the shouts, like just how much she talks and how many hints she gives and all that sort of stuff is just it's kind of it's too much, way too much. And they've even they put out a press release for their recent patch, which is patch 1.06, I think it was.
Oh yeah. That being said, I couldn't be bothered to load the patch, so that could be fixed and it could be premature.
No, it's not.
Because I'm on my PS4 Pro, I was like, I've got to load up the game for starters, and then I've got to load the level. I'm used to my Xbox, like no waiting whatsoever.
You're in the last. I forgot about this. Like, yeah, it's kind of nuts because on PS5 it just you hit new game and it starts like that, and if you go to, like when you're fast traveling, it's like 2 seconds. So it's really, really fast. Sorry, man. I don't mean to bring you pain, but yeah, I can imagine. No. But even after the patch, like in the patch notes, they said, yeah, we've reduced the amount that Aloy talks about her stash, because every time you pick up an item that like overflows your stash at any point and like overflows your inventory, so it has to be put into your stash.
Yeah.
Then she constantly mentions it. I'll put this in my stash later. I'll put this in my stash later, and she just over and over and over. It's like, just shut up. I know it's in your stash. We understand what a stash is. You don't need to keep saying this. And like they, like in the patch notes, are like, oh, we've reduced the amount that she talks about a stash. And I was like, is that it? Like, that's the only thing that you reduced? Like, really? Like, what about all the other stuff? It's kind of crazy.
About literally everything, that she says.
Right.
That being said, like, it almost amplifies the problem when you have a cutscene and the dialogue and the relationships is just spot on. Like
without a doubt. Yeah.
Animation capturing, like what is actually happening when you're learning about the characters, and they're saying things that aren't really organic. It's not really how people talk, but it's presented in a way which is actually it's very well done.
Yeah. It's very well done.
So they can do it right, and they did it right in the last game. So they've missed a trick, unfortunately, with this game, I think.
Yeah, I honestly think this is just a result of too much QA.
Too much expanding too quickly.
I think they tested this game over and over again, and every single time someone even got slightly stuck on anything, like, okay, we'll put a bark in there for that.
Right.
For that thing. And it could be anything. It could have been just that person had a bad day or whatever, and they've overcompensated for all of the things that QA sort of brought up, which, it's very much to do with like a QA manager and or like how QA teams work, but you need to really pass out like what is actually valid feedback a lot of the time. This is a great example for like over listening to QA sometimes, which is stark contrast something like Elden Ring, where it's just like, we're not even going to give you anything. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Right. It's like, that's working as intended. Yeah, that's the thing that like software people say. It's like, working as intended. Like, I got stuck on this. Working as intended. Yeah. Like, you're supposed to get stuck. It's a puzzle, you know? We're not supposed to say. And I think that's a lack of communication. I think there's a communication breakdown there. Yeah, you're right. Like, every time someone got stuck on something, they fixed it. They shouldn't have stopped to think, do we need to fix it? Should they get stuck? Should people spend like a minute trying to find a thing around here? Would that break up the flow of the level in a good way? Like, is this going to be a bit of a respite of like, wherever I've got to go?
Right.
Because, at the end of the day, in the actual game, Aloy is running around a freaking ruin of a place that she's never been before. She's not supposed to know where she's trying to get to all the time. So it's kind of, that's more like, that helps with the narrative side of things. Like, it helps you get into the character's head a bit more if she can struggle from time to time. Like, if she just bowls through every single level all the time, and she knows exactly where she needs to go and knows exactly what tool to use at all times, that's not as dynamic as it could be. I say, that's the best way I can say it.
Yeah, I mean, the older I get, like, the less I like games that hold my hand. And I don't know what it is. Like, it's something that's just like, it's come up within the past few years. I'm like, I'm so sick of these like style of games where they're just like, you're stuck for 30 seconds, or come this way, sort of thing. Like, just leave me alone for 5 minutes. Like, if I still haven't figured it out in 3 minutes, like, that's a good amount of time. Like, walking around in a circle, like, how the hell do I get out of this place? Then she's like, oh, maybe I should climb up there. I'm like, oh, thanks, Aloy. Like, okay, cool. Right. Yeah, I have got to get up there. Right, awesome. I didn't notice that. But when you walk into an area, and the second you step over the threshold, and she's just like, oh, I need to climb up there. It's like, why did you tell me? Like, what? And then, like, you look up there, and there's, like, all this puzzle to get up there. And I'm just like, okay, what is the point of that puzzle even being there now? Because she's just told me straight away what I need to do. So you might as well just make that a ladder instead, because it's not a puzzle anymore. Like, I didn't figure that out. I don't feel good. Like, I just feel like I'm a baby. And you're sort of like, you can't figure this out, you little, sort of thing. And I'm just, endless frustrations with this game because it's so close. Like, there's just these little things like that which sort of ruin the entire experience, and it ripples throughout the whole game, which is a shame. But like, in terms of, because the way the game looks, the acting, the combat feels awesome. Like, when you start getting all like the new abilities and stuff, and you're sliding around in slow motion and like shooting the bellies out of things as you go between his legs, doing things like it's amazing, like absolutely incredible. But then you get to an area where it's just like, okay, there's no puzzles here because they're all ruined for me. Aloy's just telling me what to do. She keeps, like, the ludonarrative distancing where she's constantly explaining the world when she isn't meant to know any more than you do. It's things like that where it's kind of, it doesn't feel like a game. It feels like I'm just being walked through a movie almost.
It's like a walking simulator of the most beautiful looking game, like landscape, where you're being guided. Like Aloy's a guide and she's guiding you, and you're two different people, one with knowledge and one without.
Yeah.
So that's not what they.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked. It worked absolutely. It worked in the first game because she had the focus on the side of the head, and she's got all this information that the average like tribes people around her don't know, and she's sort of like, no, it isn't a god sort of thing, and it's like that eye rolly stuff, which is like, yeah, it's hilarious and it works in that context.
Yeah.
But in this one, like, there's a lot of other people that are a bit more savvy than her at times, and she's still got that kind of arrogance to her. which it's sort of, I don't know, it's really strange. Like I'm just not like, I hope that it all comes together. Like I haven't finished the game yet. I'm still a good third of the way to go, I think. But yeah,
and narratively as well, you'd thought she would be as cocky because Silence keeps tricking her and keeps pulling like the wool over her eyes and stuff. Yeah. So you'd think she'd be a bit more humble. Like,
and there's other villains that come along that are way above her pay grade, as it were. And like when they come around, it's sort of like, like maybe you shouldn't like pretend that you know everything, Aloy, because you really don't. Like you're up against a lot here, sort of thing. And there's no real conflict to that yet. But who knows? It might change. I might like get to the last act of the game and it might all come together. There might be a reason why all this is being set up, but the hint system of the game is definitely stifling my experience anyway. It sounds like it is for yours as well.
Yeah, the lore's good though. Like the story's great. Like the writing in that respect is really good. Like the main missions keeping me going, and so it's enough keeping me going. It's just, I think too much is not there for it. I know it's not going to be like a great game. I know that I'm probably going to have these frustrations all the way through. Hopefully not. Hopefully like in a few weeks' time, on our year's anniversary in like 3 weeks' time, I was going, do you know what, Vin? It's actually got brilliant.
It is.
Like the hand-holding stopped. That would be a great thing, but...
I just wish there was a set for it. I wish you could go into the options, turn off vocal hints. Like, done. Like, I'm sure all of these audio clips are tagged somewhere. I'm sure like they've got this set up an engine in a way where they can turn these things on and off. Yeah, it's obviously going to take a lot of work to go through the whole game and do that massive systemic game like this, but they've got to be categorized or tagged in some certain way within the engine that they could absolutely turn some of these off and set it to a setting, I would hope. But you know, it is what it is, and we've just got to sort of push through and the hand holding, because like just the weird juxtaposition of playing the game on hard mode as well. The combat like scenarios are super difficult. Then you come out of it and it's like, oh, it's back to baby mode, and like oh, this is where you go, and it's like it's so jarring, you know, like it's really strange. But who knows?
I think it's hard on normal mode. I think it's like I've died a few times.
Yeah, I've knocked it down a couple of times and then knocked it back up when it's gotten a bit too easy. It depends what level I get up to and how much, like what area I'm in as well. Like you walk in some areas and it's like, wow, all these enemies are just like I can walk through them pretty much. Like they're not difficult at all. So like you bump it up a little bit. Then you come across a Thunderjaw and it's just like, oh crap, never mind. Go back down to normal.
Go back down to normal. Get rid of this. That was another thing that I didn't like. Again, on my way to the main mission from where they told me to go first, I came across a group of ones that like nearly handed my ass to me, and I was like, again, I don't know if that was the right. I wouldn't have placed that there. I maybe have made them easy to kill rather than difficult, considering I haven't played the first narrative step in the first mission in the Forbidden West. Like, make the path to the first mission a bit easy. Do you know what I mean? If that's what people are going to be trying to do,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very strange game in that respect. Like it doesn't really know what lane it wants to be in a lot of the time. So yeah. Hopefully it comes together. We'll see though.
Yeah,
we will see.
Yeah. I've not been playing anything else. Just been doing indie game stuff. So.
Yeah, I've been working on games myself. Like that's pretty much it. Like you can follow me on Twitter if you want to go and look at that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of UI coding from both of us. But yeah, it's one of those weeks my brain is fried. To answer your question, Sanjib, yes, Ubisoft are absolutely making a new game. That's it. That's all I'm telling you. Sorry, get over it.
Just one game? That's not very good, is it?
All right, many games. How's that?
Many games.
Yeah, you know, 20,000 developers in our company. You know, like we're definitely making something. God, I hope we are. Could you imagine? We're just sat around like, should we be doing something around about now?
Make a game?
Yeah, should we make a game? Is that what we do? Yes, we're making a new game. That's it. That's all I'm telling you. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, to answer your question, Sandra. Yeah, we usually do our podcast every Sunday, which is like around this time every single Sunday actually. So yeah, but we always upload to YouTube afterwards. So if you're curious about previous episodes or if you miss an episode, then you can find us there.
Yeah. Yes, you can use my photo if you want to, I guess. Yeah. Sure.
That's disturbing.
That's
Chris's face. Okay.
My face.
Sure.
Not Vin's.
Yeah.
I think Vin's better looking one, so
I really don't think so. Anyway, we should probably wrap this thing up anyway. Chris, do you want to mention anything else before we leave?
No, just that you can find me on Twitter at Acrylic Pixel, where I post my indie game stuff. So updates from there. And where can we find your stuff?
Yep, you can find me at Hillfort Games. I'm on Twitter as well. I've got the little link below both of our pictures on YouTube anyway, so you'll be able to see it there. Yep, all my indie game stuff is on there for long gone. You can go and check that out. I'm doing little indie dev logs now. I'm going to start doing those on Twitter, like little 2-minute things, just like snippets of what I'm actually working on that week. I'm kind of enjoying like going through that because I think that's going to be the more digestible way. But if you do want a long form version of that, then me, Chris, and another developer called Sam Webster, we also do a solo dev roundtable, which is very similar to Polygon Forest. In fact, you can find it on the Polygon Forest channel if you are into indie development, and it's just a roundtable with just the three of us talking about our indie games and what we're doing and sort of the problems we're having with the course of development as normal. So if you're into development, then go and check that out for the long form stuff. But also, please, for the actual podcast itself, we really appreciate you tuning in and checking us out. So please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts on the acquisition of Bandcamp and see like if there's any good or bad points to that. And also, of course, like this situation with Russia and Ukraine, like should we be punishing the games industry like this? And what are your sort of thoughts around that? Like, I'd be really curious to see what other people think about this because it's a very difficult situation. So, but,
or even if should we be talking about it, which we've chosen the road of yes, we should be talking about
it.
There's a video game podcast.
There's a lot of people just avoiding this conversation, which is very strange to me. I think it's something that we shouldn't really ignore. But I'm not saying we should embrace the politics of the situation that's happening in Ukraine. But like, there's definitely elements of it within the games industry that absolutely needs to be discussed, and this is the right context to do it. I think, otherwise it's just going to get ignored. Which would be a disservice to the industry and as a whole. But yeah, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we do go live, which is usually every single Sunday at around this time. This time minus 2 hours, like if you are watching live. But it's usually midday for the East Coast in America, and it's evening in the UK. So
it's like 5-6ish in the UK, yeah.
So you can work it out from there, I guess, depending where you are. But if you're in Japan, then you're screwed because you're not going to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch this. No chance. And I don't blame you, really. So we appreciate you watching back the episode at least. But yeah, cool. Until next time, guys, really appreciate it. Catch you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.